Brockhampton is a California boy band, or as they like to call themselves a boy band. They're actually a hip-hop collective that hails from Texas, but now is located in California. It is pretty much frontlined by Kevin Abstract. Basically, Kevin Abstract's kind of viewed as the leader at this point. He's kind of like the main guy that does all that.
He founded the group,
pretty much, essentially. Other important members of notable interest, Amir Van, who's really known for his incomparable charisma that comes through his bars. You got Don McLennan, who's one of the best MCs out there right now. You got Joba, who's one of the most charismatic and unique charismatic and unique rappers right now. I don't think there's really anyone who can really do his flow. And then you got other talented members like Matt Champion, Marilyn Wood. You got all the talented members of production. There's also like 400 other members.
The Quaker Oats guys.
Quaker Oats guy. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah. That one's a dead meme that we have.
No, it's not.
Pretty much this entire year has been the year of Brockhampton, I feel like. Ever since, like, I want to say May when they dropped Heat, their first single, it's kind of, like, taken off from there, and they've kind of pretty much dominated the entire year, in my opinion, dropping some of the most fire hip-hop tracks of the year. And what's strange about it is it doesn't feel like too much. It doesn't feel like they've released too much material. This is Saturation 3 is, of course, their third project, not only of the Saturation series, but their third project this year, their third full album. And for me personally, it doesn't feel like too much. Still doesn't feel like too much yet, surprisingly.
I'm not tired of them yet.
It seems like they're still able to move forward and produce so much content, but it's never, like, oversome. It's never too much. And with this third project, I was really excited for it because 2 was amazing. 1 I thought was really good. And it seemed, especially with 2, I thought they were improving on a lot of the problems they had with Saturation 1. I felt like performances from Marilyn Woods and Matt Champion were a lot more smoother, more refined. And their personal style, I think they came off much more as individual members than they did as just kind of like background characters, so that was nice. And then members like Kevin Abstract, Amir Van, and Don McLennan still brought it to the table and still brought a lot of charisma. And also on Saturation 2, Joba actually got more attention on the second album. He got more of a chance to like shine and like steal a show and become me and Trevor's favorite member of Brockhampton. I think he's utterly fantastic at everything he does. And anytime he pops up, it's really, really fun. And he has this unique approach to rapping that I really enjoy. And
I always have a good time with his lyrics.
I think his personal style is really fun. It's just interesting to hear a rapper like him. I don't know. I think in the last review when we reviewed Saturation 2, I compared it to kind of like the rise of Odd Future kind of mixed with like the series of albums that MF Doom released around 2003, 2004. Just not in like the style of those MF Doom albums, but like how frequently they're released, because like MF Doom went from like Fu to like Madville and all in this like really short time period, and both of those projects were awesome. And he also had, I think, a Victor Ron project in there and a couple other projects that I'm forgetting about. But like he was constantly releasing material, and it was all good. So like it's just this series. He's like they're just able to drop so much in like such a little time, and it's still consistent throughout. I think that's kind of what I liked about them. And also they're basically rise through the show on Viceland and through the internet and basically all their music videos. I feel like they've really made themselves a little spot in hip hop, which is really nice. Same way the Odd Future did. And I was really excited for Saturation 3. I'm not going to lie. I feel like since they improved so much with Saturation 2, that I thought they were going to knock it out the park with Saturation 3. And since every track seemed to get better, I really wasn't surprised when I heard this album. Not because it's bad or anything, but it kind of just met my expectations. There's nothing. This album gave me pretty much everything I wanted and nothing really more, of being a really, really solid hip-hop album to close out the year. Is it better than Saturation 2? In my personal opinion, yes. I think this album kind of took kind of like the catchiest of 2, but kind of implied a lot of the personal issues that were touched upon on 1. I think 1's way more personal and 2's way more catchy, and they found kind of the common ground to put this on 3. And I think 3, probably out of all the albums, is probably the most catchy-ist. You listen to Boogie and you immediately are taken away by just how, I don't know, how fun and how accessible that song is. It's super goofy, super easy to remember. All their little short verses just kind of like engrave your way into their head, and they're all different. Like they each have their own personal style of the artist onto them, and they all leave an impact. Like Marilyn's little bar about now I'm sad anybody want to suck my willy. Now I'm sad everybody want to suck my willy. Like that gets ingrained into your head for just how like stupid it is. And then you have Joba's part where he's just screaming, saying break necks, I'm a chiropractor. He's just this dumb stuff. And like Dom comes through with like a decently sized verse on that, and then Kevin Abstract in the beginning is like utterly fantastic. And Mir comes through with like normal charisma and charm, and I think that song is like one of my favorite songs of the year just because it fits everyone on the track except for Bareface. But Bareface isn't.
It's not important.
He's not important to be honest, but it fits everyone on the track, and like even though everyone has like the small little part, they all kind of fit. Even like everyone on that track matters. Even all the little tiny spots, regardless how goofy or how small. Even though Kevin Abstract kind of dominates a majority of the track, it still feels like a group effort. He links
everybody together. Yeah. As a musical theater background person, this reminds me of one of the big chorus numbers right before the ending of an act where it shows everybody, like all the main characters so far, and they all sing together. That's like what this reminds me of. It's like the perfect opening to a really great album, and I think that this album does a good job, as Vincent was talking about. I think this album does a really good job of showing off its individual members more, whether that includes the much improved Matt Champion or Joba or Marlon Wood, or even like scaling back on the already dominant Kevin Abstract or Amir Van. I think that everybody has like a very equal part to play in this album, and it shows off everybody's strengths and doesn't show weaknesses often. I think Boogie is like the perfect embodiment of what the concept of the album is all about.
Yeah. And Boogie again, phenomenal track. The saxophone sample on
definitely
it
one of my favorite tracks of the year.
Great. Just like the intensity everyone's able to bring to their track
is
not only unique to the own person, but each of them are just able to combine with each other, and it just feels like it doesn't feel like when it switches to artist, it doesn't feel strange or out of place. It doesn't feel like
it's switching styles in the way that I'm like when I picture the Wu-Tang Clan recording, we joke about this a lot. But, like, I imagine them all, where he won't stop eating Cheetos. I imagine them all sitting in the studio, like, recording together. And I think collaborations, like, nowadays aren't like that as much. You could get you could get somebody's verse from halfway across the country.
Across the world.
Well, yeah. I mean, sent to you from your email. But, like, when I think of Brockhampton recording with one another, I'm thinking everybody takes turn on the mic with that beat just going hard in the background, and everybody's, like, just going nuts, and people would just like step up to the mic and rap their little verse, and then the next guy will take over like immediately after.
I imagine since they live all in the same house that they just wake up in the same bed, and then like Kevin Abstract wakes everyone like, okay, we gotta do a song. They all get out of bed, and then
they all wearing matching pajamas.
That's ASAP Bob.
They all sleep in the same bed, and all their feet are like sticking out of the blanket. And Kevin wakes up. He goes, "We got to do a song." And he like whispers to Amir Van next to him, and he goes, "We got to do a song." And they all like pop up one at a time, like waking everybody up. And then they all slide down like a fire pole. They have a robot in the kitchen that makes them breakfast, like.
Okay, so what does this new album bring us? It brings us 15 tracks, and it pretty much follows the same format as Saturation 1, Saturation 2. The album has a series of skits in it, at least 3 of them, and on this one they're called cinemas, which I really just don't like that term. I'd rather just call it skits. I can get why they want to name everything different, but I don't know.
Skit has 4 letters.
It does. Oh,
Cinnamon has
I just get why
6.
they did that. Yeah, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I forgot about that.
So does Team that has 6 letters.
Yeah. Why didn't I not think of that sooner, dude?
What'd they call it on the 5th one?
Like
Party.
Yeah, it was parties. Party. But it's 15 tracks, about 46 minutes, and I think it's their best record. Again, I already mentioned it kind of brings more, it's catchy, at the same time personal. You get a sense of each member, like what they're going through. And that's always been relevant in Brockhampton, but I feel like it's more relevant on this album. We get to hear, I think, even more on this album. We get to hear more Joba. We get to hear a hell of a lot more Merlin, hell of a lot more Matt Champion. Yeah, and I'm not gonna say Amir's kind of like put to the sideline or anything, but I feel like we get less of him,
Oh, for
especially on this
sure.
project.
There was noticeably less Amir and more Joba and Matt Champion. Like I definitely could tell in this album they were made priorities, or they wanted to make more of a priority to get them equal with everybody else.
Kevin Abstract still has a dominant voice throughout the entire project, and Bareface is only on one track.
Because he
Which
sucks, haha.
he, I think, the more I like listen to him, the more I think he only goes well with Kevin Abstract, and that's about it. Because like, I'm not gonna say why is he here while he does, because he obviously plays an important role in a sense, but I feel like I wish they found him a way to just blend him in, because I feel like whenever he pops up, it's more just like he takes center stage over everything else, and he's not a member of the collective. He's just kind of this random drifter that shows up. But like, we'll get into that later when we get to talk about Team. Let's talk about problems with this album. Like, one of my biggest problems is you talked about kind of like Mir showing up a little bit less. I had a sort of an issue with that, but I feel like there's so many members that someone has to get cut, and I feel like on some of these tracks there's just so many verses that if you added in more of a Mir, it kind of would have took too much. I feel like it would have gone over the limit. So I feel like that's kind of an issue. But like, the only really problem I have with the Amir thing is that we don't get on the other two on the other two saturations. We got Tupac and we got Teeth. Both tracks are like really they're around like the fourth or fifth in the track listing, and they're usually his center focus. It's the last track before they get into the skit or the interlude or whatever with Roberto. It's usually just more about him, and I think it was weird that they broke that rule on this album, that there really isn't one. I think people have been thinking that it's Liquid, but it's really not. I don't think that's really that Amir heavy, because the last two ones, they were really, really Amir heavy, especially Teeth. Teeth was super Amir heavy, and we really didn't get that. And I think since they kept a lot of the other rules, I don't know why they just kept that one little rule. That bugged me a bit. It's not the worst thing ever. I think I just found it to be a little strange, and it wasn't like on a really established rule. But I thought since they were kind of building up that pattern, that they would continue it later. What is your least favorite track on this?
When I originally heard Johnny, I thought that was kind of a weak track, but I have come to really enjoy Johnny. I would honestly have to say that Stains might be one of my least favorite tracks.
Really?
I mean, I liked Stains, and that's just a testament to how much I actually really enjoyed this album, because like we talked about it earlier a little bit, there's not any tracks on this album that I dislike. There were never any tracks that I disliked. I will say that Johnny is a weaker track, and maybe it's just kind of my personal opinion, like, that I ended up liking it. But I also think that like Stains was a weak choice in a single, especially coming out of the gate with something like Boogie to bring up all the hype. They should have followed it up with something like Zipper or something like Hottie or Bleach. But I almost think that Stains was a little it lacked direction.
To me, I feel like Stains is the one with like the most direction, because it starts off, you get Amir like with his longest verse on the project. He starts off with I love how everyone's flow starts with "I spent a year and a half," and Amir's like, "I spent a year and a half on the back of a bus." He's talking about he's going to see this girl, and then he talks about goes into Fame, and then I think next is Matt Champion's next, and he talks about just kind of personal issues, and then I think it goes into Job. Yeah.
He's talking about his time in the chiropractor school. Yeah.
No, it's Joba. I think Joba, and like Joba comes into the end, talks about his issues, and that's the only track that doesn't have Kevin Abstract on it. If I'm right.
I think so.
Yeah, I think
his
has
appearance
a hand,
dwindles, but he's always on some sort of intro.
I think that was the only track where at least I was going through and listening that I didn't really feel his presence on it.
That's not to say I don't like Stains, but I just didn't like it as much. I don't know.
Yeah, Stains is, I don't know, one of my favorites on the project. Team is like the one I dislike the most. Just because I feel like we've heard it. Like Bareface being on the final track as like the outro.
That's all he does. I feel like his outro.
And it's like he didn't do anything new with it. Like I will admit, when he gets like when the second part, the second half of the first half, I know that sounds dumb, but when it breaks down it gets a little bit better because we really haven't heard it in that style. But I feel like he's done the same song like 3 times at this point.
Maybe there's a point to that.
And I don't get it. Like, I know it's supposed to keep like consistency throughout this album, all these albums, but I would have rather on Saturation 2 he did like a completely different song, but it's just only his song. And on 3 he did something completely different from 1 and 2. But on this, it seems like he's done the same track like 3 times at this point. And then you get into the second half. Again, this is going to sound stupid. Second half of the first, it breaks down a bit, sounds a little bit different, and it's okay. And then you get at the end, and my main complaint about it is not anyone's verses on it. I think everyone's verses are fine, but the instrumental sounds like something off Kevin Abstract's American Boyfriend. Like, I've heard this instrumental before. Like, I don't know whether it was part of a previous Saturation, I'm just forgetting about it, but it sounds like something I've heard before. And I just don't care for the instrumental that much. But the ending does come together with something I kind of predicted, I think, during Saturation 1, is that they were going to tie it back into Heat. But my prediction was they're going to have a really angry track to end it off, and this is more of a really somber.
I just still more of a mellow track.
Yeah.
And it is a 4-letter word, but I also think that it's definitely leading into Team Effort, their next album.
It is, I think, in that sense, but I want for Team Effort, which is, Brockhampton already announced that they're having a project in February. I hope they do something completely different. Because, like, I like Saturation 1, I like Saturation 2, love Saturation 3. I don't want this style. Like, I don't want them to do the same layout after this.
I want to see what else they can do.
I don't want skits from Roberto anymore. Like, they're fine on this album. The skits on this album.
I think Roberto's story is done.
I just want it to be done. Because my main problem, and this, let's get into the scenes. The scenes basically are the cinemas on this
album. That's what it was. Skit, scene, cinema.
The cinemas on this album basically go back to Roberto. This Roberto character he's set up. And we still don't know too much about him. Like, I think they're trying to relate to the story to the music videos, but, like, I haven't seen Billy's Star yet. I know it's out. I haven't watched the full thing. So if there's a lot of Roberto's story in there, I'm not aware of it. But I feel like they're trying to tie it to the music videos, but there's just so much that I just don't know what he's talking about. And I don't know his character really much. I almost wish that Roberto was kind of like just like real life Roberto. But with this, it makes it seem like he's more of a character. And I really don't care for that much, because it's like, if everything in this, there's real issues, why is Roberto fake? Like, that just kind of like throws me on the air. And that's my personal opinion on it. But I think the cinemas on this are like the best skits, though. I think they're the most beautiful, like with the background instrumentals and the background samples. I think they're just the most well crafted and most interesting to listen to. And I feel like on this album they serve like to be the breaks the most, because I feel like Stains is a really heavy track and you can't go like directly into Team. Like, you needed that break. And the same thing from I like how Boogie like kind of starts you off on this high point, and then you get into the Zipper, and then that leads into Johnny, and that leads into Liquid. Like, those 3 tracks like intertwine to each other. It's like On Your Road, and then you get into the Cinema, and that's the break. Like, they could have just had that flow throughout the entire album and be really, really heavy, and like, but they gave you the break, and I feel like
that was a good artistic choice.
It's nice to have the breaks,
opinion.
like have the flows. I love when you just kind of just put us somewhere else for a bit, just so we're not on this constant path. Like, you can have us be on like a couple slides, but at least give us some breaks so we're not just down this giant ass hill. I thought that was really nice. But the Roberto character I still really don't understand, and it's probably something they're going to try to film in music videos or Saturation the movie or whatever they're calling it at this point. But I feel like it's not bad that we don't really know what he's going through. I feel like, but since he just feels like a character, it just kind of makes everything else feel a little bit fake. I don't know. But that's probably the biggest issues I have with this album. I really don't have any other problems with that. Those were like the biggest things that bugged me through the entire album. Other than that, Boogie is a fantastic way to start off your album. I think they've learned their mistake from Heat, because with Saturation 1 and Heat felt like it was such a good intro, but they never really reached that intensity ever again. They really never reached that like edginess, that like full throttle in your faceness ever again, because the rest of the album was like so much more somber and like chilled down than that, and it just kind of felt like a false start. Whereas this Boogie is a really hype, but it's not like super intense in your face or anything like that. It's not like It's
It's
not
hype, but it's not
not
aggressive.
Yeah, and I feel
And
like
there is a difference.
and you can go from Boogie to Zipper, and it like flows perfectly. Whereas I think Heat to Gold didn't really feel the same way. Zipper is utterly fantastic. That's probably my second favorite track on this album. I love Joba starting it off with just his flow. Kevin Abstract on the hook's amazing, and Maryland with the line about Anthony Fantano. What was it?
It was great.
Head was clean. Anthony Fantano.
Tony Fantano.
That's great.
That's so funny.
It's so fucking. It's probably one of my favorite like bars of the year. I don't know why. I just think that line's funny. So
He's being acknowledged.
yeah, but I think that track's perfect. I think Johnny is great. I love Liquid. Cinemas are good. I really like Bleach. Bleach is like utterly beautiful.
It's so good.
It's just like it's not my favorite track, but it's like it's
the
just
fact that they got like a feature on here. It's like there's not many features on Brockhampton projects.
yeah. Ryan Beatty. Do you
Ryan
know?
Beatty,
Do you know
I've
much?
never heard of him, but he's really good.
I feel like
I think that he added quite a bit to the track.
at first I literally thought he was Kevin Abstract.
No, I did too.
Yeah. I just
I had to
probably
look it
because it
up.
was out of tune.
I looked it up and found out it was a feature.
Yeah.
But like, I think that they really. I have a feeling that they really went back and forth with like whether or not they wanted to include him on the track or wanted to include a feature. But I think that including the feature was a really smart move on their part, and I think it was really helped the track in the long run.
I think it was okay because it's him, and he's kind of. I'm not saying he's like a nobody or anything, but I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you would have put in like anyone else, it would have felt awkward. Like if someone you knew, let's say like Tyler the Creator popped up on a track, that would have felt weird. It would have been hype,
Yeah,
but it
for
would have
sure.
felt weird.
No, I'm glad that they picked like. I bet he was a friend of theirs. Honestly.
Yeah, he was on Queer too.
Yeah.
He was background vocals. He wasn't. He didn't have like a main performance like he did on this. But the end of Alaska with Matt Champion's verse is just so beautiful. It's like I don't know. I get like shades of like chip hop. It's not chip hop, but like it just gives me that vibe.
No.
Yeah, but it's just kind of like this really
I understand.
synthetic hip hop, and that's
Plastic Beach.
kind of. It's kind of like
Yeah.
I just really like the vibe.
I'm not joking around here.
And one thing I forgot to mention, and it's probably my last complaint about this album, Sister/Nation. The only
That's
thing,
the two Kendrick Lamar albums, right?
yes,
Correct?
yeah.
Okay.
On
Making sure.
on Sister, I feel like it goes on for a little bit too long.
Just a little bit, yeah. I would
I feel
agree.
like Dom's verse should have just been cut on Sister, and then I love his verse on Nation, and it kind of like I don't feel like he really needed two verses there. I feel like the second verse is like so much better than the first. Like it's almost like first verse doesn't even really feel like Dom. Like the second verse is like where
That's
he really
his
comes.
style.
Yeah, and like it's so it's not. I'm not saying it's so short, but it's like it's like short enough to like make me question like why it's even there, and he doesn't really say anything important. So I much rather have his second verse where he's talking about how he thinks he's treated. I think that's really great. Yeah, this album's great. It's my favorite Brockhampton project by far. I really can't say anything much about it. Like I don't have any other complaints. I think.
I remember we're just nitpicking there.
Yeah, like now we're just nitpicking. Like all my major complaints were nitpicks. Besides Team, which was like the track I liked the least. I think everything else on this is great. I think on this project, Matt Champion proves his worth. He proves his worth on Saturation 2, but he continued on the 3, and he has some of my favorite verses. I love his verse on Sister, love his verse on Stains, love his verse on Zipper. I think he's great. I think Maryland especially improved his worth. He improved a lot on 2, but he basically perfected his own personal style on 3. Maryland is like one of the funnest members of Brockhampton now, and I didn't get that from the last 2 projects, which is weird because he had the most unique style out of all of them, and it's nice to hear him get more of a center stage that isn't like he's always had like a decent amount of time, and it wasn't like Joba or anything on Saturation 1, but he's always had like a decent amount of time, and I feel like we've never really got a lot of him, of his personal style. It seems like he's never really truly been himself, especially in Saturation 1 and Saturation 2. He improved, but I feel like all the puzzle pieces wasn't really there. But in this one, I feel it's like perfect. Like this
They fall into place.
This is the Maryland we should be getting. everyone else is still great. Joba's still great. He got more time on this album. I was really excited about that. Mir's still fantastic. Kevin's still fantastic. And Dom still like one of the best MCs out there. He's just so smooth. He's just so, I don't know, like effortless when he raps. It's like he just is able to just perfectly flow together these bars, and like there's no like effort being put in. It's just smooth, really smooth. It's weird. Yeah, I love this record. I think it's their best, and it's not only their best record, but like the best record of the year, one of the best records of the year. Overall, I think I'm gonna give this a 9.5. I really like it. It's really good. I think you should check it out. I think everyone should check it out, and I would actually recommend starting off with this first. I think this is like the one you should start off with, because I feel like not only if it's the one that's the most accessible, but it's the best.
I would definitely say start from the beginning so you can see the growth, because I think that seeing the growth in the members and the sound as a whole helped me appreciate Saturation 3 for what it was and what it could have been if nobody would have stepped it up or if they wouldn't have listened to their fans. Saturation 3 easily could have been like a bad project. It easily could have gone down this, like, just been a stagnant series of saturations, if that makes sense. Saturation 1, 2, and 3, had they not listened to their fans, had they not practiced, had they not written every day, or been as a group every day, or, you know, completely just stepped their game up every single day, then it could have just been like a very flat-lined series. But I think that each project builds off of one another and gets better and better. As we've talked about, like, I mean, I know, like, we keep talking about Joba, and we keep talking about Dom, and we keep talking about Merlin Woods, but, like, I've really got to shout out my boy Matt Champion here, because I seriously think that, like,
He improved.
He has improved a lot, and, like, I'm proud of him in a really weird way.
Listen, if you want to see how much Matt Champion has improved, I'm sorry to cut you off, Trevor, but listen to Dirt, and listen how much he sounds like just like a good G-Eazy, like a G-Eazy, someone who's ripping off G-Eazy, but like doing a better job, like G-Eazy with like waking up in the morning with a good amount of sleep and like has a balanced breakfast, like that type of G-Eazy.
He ate his Wheaties, he drank his orange juice, he brushed his teeth. That's Matt Champion. And G-Eazy doesn't do any of that. G-Eazy eats Kroger brand Frosted Mini Wheats. G-Eazy drinks Coca-Cola cherry for breakfast, and he brushes his teeth with baking soda and his finger.
But listen to Matt Champion's like verse on Dirt. You can obviously see that he's like improved, and I think that's fantastic.
I think every member of Brockhampton has improved immensely. Definitely. And Saturation 3, I mean, it would be the most accessible in the way that I think that, not to jump ships here, but I think Tyler, the Creator's Flower Boy is the most accessible record that he has ever made.
Same thing, A$AP Rock, completely different, like, part of hip-hop, but, like, A$AP Rock, Possible Kid. The one
most accessible. But, you know, I have come to appreciate Flower Boy so much more because I've listened to previous discography and hated it. Hated it. I did not like Tyler, the Creator at all until I listened to Flower Boy. But guess what? Flower Boy ended up, I mean, being one of my favorite records of the year. Not to spoil anything, I'm going to have to give Saturation 3 a 9.25. Because I feel like I am always afraid to just shoot the gun and say, like, hey, I'll give it a 9.5. Because I seriously think it's such a good project, and I loved it to pieces. I think it was great. Not to spoil anything. One of my favorite records of the year.
I like this album a lot. We like for the past 2 Saturation reviews, we did like a countdown or a list of who we thought was going to be the forefront member, the one that was going to take off. But we really don't need to do that anymore because they announced there's just going to be a group from here on. There's not going to be like solo projects, which kind of broke our theory that
I think that they will still do solo projects because you look at like. What? Seriously? Like,
yeah,
Amir Van already has done solo projects.
I don't think Kevin Abstrack's going to do one for sure because he's the one that stated it.
Right.
I don't think Matt Champion's going to do one.
I think the only one that will do one is Amir.
I think Dom, if there is, because he was already working on stuff, apparently. At least what I remember from what he tweeted. My favorite member, though, if I'm being honest, I think Joe is still my favorite member. Really like Kevin. I really love all of them. They're all fantastic. But probably Joe is personal favorite.
I would have to agree.
But yeah, Team Effort, which is our album that's dropping in February. Like, is that gonna have features to it? Okay, I hope it's not another Saturation. It's not going to be, but I hope it doesn't follow the same layout as Saturation.
Oh yeah, I hope they do something different but same.
I hope they do features, like actual features. That would be one thing to separate.
Maybe a little bit.
I think Jaden Smith wants to be on that. That could work. I'm not. Jaden Smith's one of those artists where I feel like he has potential, and I know you're probably gonna burn me for saying that. Even no, Cyrus sucked.
No, I think he could have potential.
He's pretty like.
You know
Listen,
who I think has potential? Will Smith.
Dude, that'd be fucking great.
He can come back.
Only for the meme. Yeah, I think I would love some features on Team Effort. I would like a different layout, some features. Tyler Creator for sure, because he's always been like the biggest influence on them. I mean, you can always tell, especially Odd Future in general. And also, if you're gonna have Bareface, no solo work. Just have him, incorporate him to the group like everyone else. Because I feel like when he's on his own, it's just kind of boring. Because he just writes one song over and over again. That's all I really want from Team Effort. I just want something different. Because I feel like if they just keep on making Saturations, or at least not Saturation as the project, but Saturation as in terms of the same project, same type of project, over and over again, it's going to get kind of boring. With this, it was like different enough from 2 and different enough from 1 where it felt like it mattered. And it felt like it was the best. But I feel like if they keep on making same type of music, that is going to get old real quick. Especially since they're releasing it every like couple months. It's going to get old. But yeah, check out this record. Great.
For sure. It's really something.
It's fantastic.